Morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Excuse me, no, yeah, today's Wednesday. Sorry, I have my days mixed up. Sorry about that. I've been working so much recently that I have my days mixed up. I apologize for that. I'd be scared if it was Thursday because I haven't started working on the class materials for this Sunday yet. So I'd feel like I was behind if it was Thursday. But I hope that you're well. I hope that you're having a good Wednesday. I am having some beautiful weather out where I live. I took my dog for a quick walk this morning, and it was just really pleasant out. You know, for this time of year, you know, we're still in mid-August. It was really beautiful, so I hope the same for you. I hope it's cooling down in various parts of the world. I hope that you're well. So Wednesday is another opportunity for all of us to have a discussion here, for all of us to get together as data scientists and share ideas. So I'm really excited about that. I feel so lucky that I get to share this time with all of you. So really happy to be able to spend it here with you. As you guys know, we always start off with our global roll call. So please feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know your city, state, province, country that you're from. I love seeing the global community of data scientists. To be frankly honest, it motivates me to keep going because I love seeing people from all over the world and the different effect that we're having on each other, coming together as a community. So please go ahead and introduce yourself. It's possible that some of you are new to my streams, and that's okay. Just use the introduction as an opportunity to participate without having to ask any technical questions or anything like that. But of course, if you do have questions about, data science or your career or different things like that, I will do my best to give you an answer, and just kind of go from there. So while you guys are coming into the chat and settling in and introducing yourself, let me know your city, state, province. I always like to start off with an opening note, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about. Today's opening note is going to be about how to speak with management, because we've had some really great discussions on our live streams recently about managers and what makes up a good manager and whatnot. But in turn, you as a data scientist also have to know a little bit about how to talk to management. And one of the things I always stress is that you can't be a math nerd, you can't be a code nerd when talking to both your stakeholders and management, because that's not really effective communication when you deal with people who are on the business side. They want to hear things in business terms, or just kind of in ways that they can understand, right? You have to meet people at the level where they're at, and most people are really not going to be ready for you to talk to them in technical terms or in coding terms. So you should try to keep the technical and coding terms really to a minimum. When I think about this, I also think about how difficult it can be for somebody, who does have a data scientist mind to be able to talk in business terms. That's not always easy, right? So I'm reminded of something that I was told for one of the great leaders that I work with. I've been very fortunate in my career to have examples to be working for some really great leaders. And the example that's coming to mind is from a managing director. And his saying to me and to my team was always, give me something to react to, right? You got to give your manager something to react to. So in most cases for data science, that means you can demonstrate some sort of result or some sort of a visualization or some sort of an example of your results of what your algorithm can do. So you're not talking about tech terms or the code you wrote or things like that, but you might want to talk about the experiments you run in a brief way, maybe just 3 examples of the different types of experiments that you ran. What those experiments showed you in terms of was it a promising model? Was it a so-so model? Was it a terrible model? Right? Just kind of a, red light, green light type of thing. And then give some sort of projected business impact. If you implement our algorithm, we think your sales can go up by 10%. A statement like that, a visualization like that, is something where the manager I gave as an example would be able to react to that, right? Your manager would be able to react to that. And then they can help you in terms of saying, okay, yeah, 10% increase in sales is great, but we get that with more increased advertising anyways, right? That's something that you wouldn't have known, but the business knows. And that's where you're creating that conversation, that, I hate to use the word, but that synergy between you and the business. to be able to say, okay, yeah, now we're understanding each other. Now we, the data science team, is showing you, the business team, what our capabilities can produce, and then you tell us if those are acceptable to the business, if those fit the needs that the business has. That type of conversation is critical to both sides, and at the same time, it keeps the technical talk low, both the technical talk from you to them and them to you, because I realize that some of you early in your careers may not have enough of the business credentials to be able to talk strictly in business terms. So by creating those very simplified results, maybe visualized results, you are also helping yourself to not have to speak in so many business terms or know the business to a large degree, because the business in turn, in their reaction, they will guide you and they will tell you, yeah, that's a much better result than we thought, or no, that doesn't sound right, we need something else from you, right? And then that allows both teams to go their separate ways, and you have guidance to be able to continue working. So give me something to react to is something really important. And in fact, I like it so much that I've walked into meetings, because you got to remember, sometimes these managers are very, very, very busy, right? You're lucky to get a 30-minute meeting with them, right? So it's allowed me to walk into meetings and say, hey, we can keep this short, 20 to 30 minutes top. Here's our 3 findings, 1, 2, 3. What do you think? That's literally my agenda for the meeting. That's literally how I start off. Because that way you're kind of getting those fast reactions from the business, and you should be able to kind of gauge upon that reaction and say, yeah, my manager just gave us enough information for us to keep going working. Let me stop the meeting here, right? It lets you build on those quick reactions while still getting the guidance that you need, or in some cases the approvals you need, because in some cases the business might say, yeah, great, run with it. Let's move towards production, right? So give me something to react to is something that's really important, something that, again, I've seen in some of the great leaders that I've worked with, and I've gone ahead and I've implemented it and as a manager. And I think it also helped you in terms of being able to simplify what you will need to know in business terms and what they will need to know in technical terms. Now, to be clear, you should always be studying the business, right? You should always be, trying to improve those business skills. But this is something that I'm suggesting as a stopgap or as a helper for you during those times in your career where maybe you switch industries or you're new to the field. Maybe it's your first job or your first job working for a large enterprise. Doing that type of expectations around your meeting about, hey, we're going to give you something to react to, will help you greatly until you develop those business skills a little further. Okay, so I hope that helps. If not, if you have questions, let me know in the chat. I use these opening notes to maybe spark some thoughts in you, to maybe, if you're shy or don't have a question today, maybe the opening note will help you with those questions. But I think today is an important one because I think it can help you at all levels. But I can already see people in the chat. Please feel free to introduce yourself if you're joining us late. Let us know your city, state, country, all of that good stuff. But we have a new entrant in our race to be first. I know that there's been a race for people to join in the chat first. Kyle63AS is a new winner. I don't think I've seen Kyle before at all. Kyle, if you'd like to introduce yourself, would love to know about where you're from. But Kyle is first in our chat today. Thanks for joining, Kyle. Rohan, you've been a great supporter, Rohan. Thanks so much for showing up. Rohan says, good morning, Dennis, and all. Rohan from Vizag, India. I love that you're greeting everyone, Rohan, because I feel like we're building a pretty good community here. We certainly have our regulars that I appreciate. So yeah, thanks for that. Landry says, back-to-back champion. Hello, everyone from... I'm sorry, Landry, but that's not accurate, my friend. I will agree that you were first on Instagram, but remember, my chat here has multiple platforms. I push out on 6 different platforms, I think. So you are not first in the chat. You are first on Instagram, but we do have some YouTube people that might have beat you today, Landry. But good to see you, my friend. Hope you're well in Belgium. Patrick, how you doing, Patrick? Patrick says, good morning, all. Patrick is one of our very skilled mods on Discord and on YouTube. So shout out to Patrick for helping out. Really appreciate that. Patrick, yesterday, when Joseph logged in, there was an icon showing that he was a moderator. For some reason, that's not happening today. I don't know why it happened yesterday and not anymore. But thanks for joining in, Patrick. Hope that you're well. Rohan says, yesterday's session was very good. Yeah, it was very good, wasn't it? You guys came in strong with questions. You know, I love how there's like an ebb and flow to the questions. You know, sometimes we have streaming sessions that are slower than others, and that's okay. But sometimes you guys come in super strong with the questions. So yesterday was great for that. Yeah, so I enjoyed yesterday's session too. Thanks for saying that, Rohan. Stippus says, howdy, folks. Hey, Stippus, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Stippus, I'm going to jump ahead here. I'm from Ruston, Louisiana. I just finished my master's in data science in May, and I'm one of the very few aspiring academic data scientists. I conduct research at the precipice of public policy and data science. Nice. Very cool. How recently did you earn that master's? Like, you know, like maybe like the summer semester or the spring semester? Precipice of public policy and data science. Public policy is such a broad term. Is there a specific specialty you have? Let us know, Stippus, if you're comfortable sharing that. Rex, our man in New York City, says, hi everyone, this is Rex from New York City. Rex is ably helping us out on Twitch, making sure that there's no spam on Twitch, so thank you so much for that, Rex. Sarvesh, welcome back. You've been coming back a lot this week. Really good to see you. Hello, good day to all. Good day to you, Sarvesh. Leo, how are you, Leo? Good morning, Dennis. Good to see you, Leo. You've been coming a lot this week. Glad to see that. Hope that you're doing well. Sai, Divya. You know, I'm seeing a lot of names, but not a lot of introductions. Let us know where you're from. Let us know the city, state, country you're from. You never know. You might meet somebody from your school or from your city, from your country. You can't build a network unless you introduce yourself, right? So let us know where you're from. Huz4818. Huz, I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. I'm from Pakistan, but I'm not a data scientist, but aspire to be one. Hey, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. I don't sell fantasy dreams about becoming a data scientist in a week, but I do try to give you guys the real world view. So if you want to hang back and listen and take some things in, I think you're in a good place for it. So welcome, Huz. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to participate in the chat, okay? Moose the Goat, but your name is Moises. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Moises. I'm a chemist, but would like to pivot into data science. Okay, welcome. Where are you from, Moises? Oh, from Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, we have a couple of people from Boston. We get a couple of viewers from Boston. Pivot into data science is very possible. It's going to take some work on your part, but if you're a chemist, you're probably already a pretty smart guy. But it is possible. If you'd like, on YouTube, I released a video maybe last week or 2 weeks ago called How I Made My Mid-Career Transition into Data Science, because I also made a transition into data science. So I lay out the entire story. You know, short version is that it took me about 2 years, roughly. But, you know, everyone's different. But, you know, you're welcome. You know, if you're welcome here, and if you're in the right place, if you want to learn, you know, from a real world perspective, no fantasy stories or $100 boot camps sold here. Jati, good to see you again. I know you've joined before. Thank you so much. Happy to be here today. Good afternoon, sir. Well, good afternoon to you too. It's still morning for me. It's like 8 a.m. on my end, right? I'm in the Pacific time zone, so kind of in the later part of the world. But yeah, I know it's evening for most of you, so glad that you're joining us, Jati. But yeah, everything is great on my end. I'm picking up my groceries later this morning, so that's my big thing for the day: streaming and groceries. Rohan says, congratulations, Strippus, for the masters. Okay, it's Stippus, not Strippus. Okay, I was thrown off on it. Yeah, it's Stippus. Congratulations, Stippus, for the masters. Yeah, congratulations for that. That's a big achievement. Big achievement. I'm going to tell you a story about masters in data science that I heard this week. Let me finish the introductions, and if I forget, remind me. But I got a story about masters in data science. Yassine, our good friend Yassine from Fez, Morocco. But you said you're in Tangier right now, right? Or are you just in Tangier during the school year? Remind me of that. Yassine is a great participant on our Discord. And by the way, if you guys haven't joined, you are welcome to join our Discord. We are having some great conversation on there. Let me bring that up. This is our Discord. You are welcome to join. Yassine has posted some really great analysis that I would love for all of us to have more discussion on. I'm going to post my thoughts later today. But we're posting all kinds of, questions, articles. I post to my live streams, things along those lines. Feel free to join us if you haven't already. We are very close to having our 100th Discord member. So maybe you can be member 100. I don't know. But it's a good resource. It's a good way for all of you to stay in touch away from the live streams, because sometimes you might have questions at different times of the day or articles you might read or whatnot. So feel free to join our Discord. I think it's a great resource. Kyle says, same Kyle Keegan, just different name. Okay, cool. Well, welcome, Kyle. Remind us where you're from again. We can remember the names, but not always where people are from. Stippa says they got it at the end of the spring semester. Okay, cool. So you got it. You're taking the summer to do your job search or whatnot. I think that government jobs or public policy jobs can have a little bit of a longer hiring cycle. So hopefully you're moving well along on that process. Stippus adds, I focus on spatial inequality across the rural-urban continuum, and my primary policy focus is increasing economic diversity in rural areas. Oh, okay, very cool. Very cool, Stippus. I like that. I like that a lot. I keep on reading articles about how a lot of rural hospitals have a hard time staffing and then they have a hard time staying open. So I imagine that plays into your study at some point. Really fascinating area of study. Maybe I don't know enough about it to comment on it, but from what I know and, living here in the US, that's going to be a very hard problem to solve. That's not a problem you solve in a couple of years, right? I mean, that's going to take probably multiple decades to solve. It's a very difficult problem. So props to you for working on that. That's excellent. Rochasoso says, one day I'm going to be the best DS like you. I don't know if I'm the best DS, but yeah, I can hold my own, but I appreciate the compliment. There's some very talented data scientists out there. There's also a lack of talent at the very high levels, right? So I do try to stay in contact with some of the people that I respect in the industry, which is, I can count on one hand. But yeah, if you do aspire to be the best in this, there's a lot of room to do that. One of the reasons why I try to host these live streams and show you guys how to get there in a professional way is because if you do get there in a professional way, it's very easy to kind of get to those top levels because, the pool of talent, of genuine bona fide data science talent is still very shallow. So it's a pretty straightforward path to rise above that and become a lead data scientist, a senior data scientist, a chief data scientist. If you can show that you are talented, are able to talk to the business, are able to deliver projects and business impact, you can climb quickly. So I appreciate the compliment, Rachaso, and I think most of you can get there. Leo says, attending as much as I can, trying to grow the brotherhood. It does feel like a good community. Now, I will say, I don't want to think of it as a brotherhood because my analytics show that my female audience is increasing. So we do have female attendees in the live streams and that watch my videos and even in the Discord. And also in the classes on Sundays, we've been getting, my numbers for female attendance have been growing. So I love the community spirit, Leo. I'll stop at calling it a brotherhood because we welcome both males and females. But yeah, we're growing a community here, and I'm pretty proud of that. Yes, Jati says they're from Lagos, Nigeria. That's right. You're from Nigeria. Welcome. Glad to see you again, Jati. Stippis says thank you to the community for all the congratulations. And yeah, getting a master's is definitely not an easy achievement. So good for you. So Moises says I'll check it out. Yeah, Moises, feel free to check out the Discord. Rex has ably posted the link. Thank you for that, Rex. Click on the link. That invite is always available. We are up to 94 members, so who knows? Maybe you'll be member 100. We're growing our numbers. And like I've said before, guys, I am so embarrassed because I had the Discord server ready to go for about a month before I announced it. I sat on it for a month because I thought, are people going to be interested in? I don't know. Does anybody use Discord anymore? I sincerely thought that. So I sat and I just didn't advertise it. I had the invites, I had everything. Everything was 100% ready to go. But, you know, that's researcher bias, right? I let my own bias say, nah, that's not going to work. Not going to work. So shame on me for doing that, because that's a great example of researcher bias. I just didn't think people were interested, but I was wrong. We're having great conversations. So yeah, you're definitely welcome to join. Yassine says, yes, I study in Tangier, but I return to Fez during the summer. When does the school year start, Morocco? It starts pretty soon, doesn't it? I think they keep like a September to July, or September to June school year, like most of the world, don't they? Let me know, Yassine. Yeah, and Patrick, thank you for pushing out the Discord link on YouTube. Thank you for that. So Kyle says, living in Ireland, originally from South. Oh, that's right. That's right. You're from South Africa, living in Ireland. I remember that. Yeah, welcome, Kyle. Good to see you again. Joseph says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Joseph. How are you? So Joseph is also one of our moderators. Now, Joseph, did you notice that today there is no wrench next to your name? There was one there yesterday. For some reason, my chat did pick up that you were a moderator and put the wrench next to your name, but today it is not there. So I don't get that. I don't understand that. Yeah, it's just one of those weird things about the chat, but welcome, Joseph. Shout out to Joseph, Patrick, and Rex for being great moderators. I appreciate their help. Lakshmi, good to see you. Good morning, Dennis and all. Am I saying that right? I think it's Lakshmi. If not, let me know. Let me know in the chat if I'm saying that right or not. Lakshmi, I think you were there on our Sunday class, and I think you were one of the people there that was there for the entire class, which is not easy. I know a few of you were there for the entire class, so congratulations to all of you. We went for almost 3 hours, so really amazing that you guys are putting that investment into learning. That's fantastic. So if you guys are wondering about the class, this is what I'm referring to. Introduction to Statistical Learning. This book is where professional data science begins. I can assure you of that. If you want to take a professional approach to learning, this book is a great place to start. Sundays, 1500 GMT. We're going chapter by chapter. We are doing chapter 7? Chapter 7 this week, I believe. I haven't looked at the materials yet. I have to put them together yet. But we're going to go through chapter 7. And we're having a good time. You know, I teach with the Socratic method. I ask a lot of questions. You know, I try to not answer people. I try to answer with a question, and that keeps the conversations going. So everybody that's been attending has been great about providing feedback. And, you know, and sometimes if you're shy about answering, you can just say, yeah, I agree with this person, right? And no one's going to call on you or anything. You know, everybody participates voluntarily. But it's been going great. So if you're interested in coming, you can check out the previous classes on my YouTube, or you can just go ahead and join us on Sunday. But, you know, it's been going great. And if you're really serious about studying, I'm trying to provide a good resource as an initial study guide. You know, I'm not charging for it. I don't sell anything. But if you want to go beyond, you know, the fake promises and the quick YouTube tutorials, feel free to attend. Feel free to get the book. The book is available via PDF on statlearning.com. That's the author's website. That's not my website. That's the author's website. You can get it from there. Patrick, I'm going to come back to your question. Let me finish the introductions here. So Lakshmi says, yes, from New Delhi, India. It's dinner time here, so I tend a little late, but almost every day. Yes, you pronounce it right. Okay, good. I'm glad to see you, Lakshmi. New Delhi dinner. What's for dinner in New Delhi? I love Indian food because it's so spicy. I love that. So I was... For one time in my career, I was relocated to Dallas, Texas. And Dallas, Texas has a fairly high Indian population. So they have really good Indian restaurants in Dallas, Texas. I bet you didn't know that, right? When you think of Dallas, you probably think of steak and barbecue, which they kind of sort of have. But they have really good Indian restaurants in Dallas. There was one in particular that was you know, how would you say it? Like, you know how restaurants have like regional foods, not just from the country, but from the region. So the one restaurant I liked had food from Bombay, I believe was the region. And it was really good. And what I really like about Indian food is that when Indian food is spicy, it at least tastes good, right? Because some U.S. food or foods from other regions, they're spicy, but there's no taste to them, right? It's just a punch in the mouth, right? It doesn't, like, yeah, it's hot, but like it doesn't taste like anything. But with Indian food, you're getting some good flavors, and good textures and things like that. So you got me hungry thinking about dinner, Indian food for dinner. Ajay Chawan says hi. Hey Ajay, let us know where you're from, Ajay. Let us know your city, state, province, country. We always like to introduce ourselves that way. So Yassine says exactly September to June. Okay, yeah. So you're in Fez right now, and then you'll be going back to Tangier for the school year. That makes sense. But hey, you're keeping up with your studies over the summer. You're participating here, participating on Discord. That helps. It helps keep the brain engaged. So good for you. So Leonardo says, so let's adjust this theta 0, Dennis, no bias vibe killing allowed here. Okay, good. I like that attitude. Yeah. Yes. Again, my analytics show an increasing a female attendance. So welcome both males and females in all of my content. Okay, so Patrick is asking an interesting question. So if you guys have questions, feel free to let me know. Feel free to put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them, or maybe somebody in the chat can provide an answer for you. The community can help the community itself too. So Patrick says, can you recommend any professional data science blogs that focus more on the business deliverables than on the math and stats? Patrick, to my knowledge, that does not exist yet. The overwhelming majority focus on the math and stats, like you say. But I have not come across any that focus on that. I try to do that in the stuff that I post in the Discord, where I try to show like the real world examples of things that can happen. But otherwise, I don't know of a dedicated blog that does that. So that's a good opportunity, for some of you as you get later on in your studies or later on in your career, if you kind of want to focus on that as a niche. I might do some of that in my content. I've got a variety of different things I'm trying to do with my content. But no, Patrick, I don't know of any dedicated blogs that focus on the business deliverables. Eventually, somebody will come up with that, right? As data science matures a little bit more, that will develop. But I do not know of one right now. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the plain answer. I don't know. But good question, though. Good question. So Patrick has posted the Discord. Just during this time, we've had a couple of new joiners, I think. We've had 2 new people join. So welcome if you're joining off this particular chat. But yeah, we are now up to 96 people. So 4 more people and we'll be at 100 for the Discord. That's crazy, right? But here's the thing about Discord that I thought was interesting. You cannot become a discoverable Discord server until you have 1,000 members in your Discord. So when I read stuff like that, I always, I kind of make my own inferences about that, right? If they don't let you become a discoverable Discord server until 1,000 members, that means that there are some really, really big Discord servers out there, right? Because that means that everything that's discoverable or everything that they, that they acknowledge in their index or whatever means that they must have Discord servers out there with multiple thousands, right? So I love the fact that we're approaching 100, but I'm envisioning, what do they say? I'm manifesting a time where we have 10,000 users on the Discord, right? I'm going to manifest that into the universe. We'll see what happens. Leo says, I'm going to join the Discord later. Okay, I think Leo might be trying to snipe the 100th spot. We'll see if that's what Leo's trying to do. Something tells me he's trying to do that. But we're close to 100. We're close to 100, guys. So Ajay says, I am from India, New Delhi. Okay, cool. We have a couple of people from New Delhi in here. That's great. And I'm sure a couple of viewers from India. India is one of my biggest demographics. So Patrick is reaching out to the community, says, if anyone else has suggestions, pop into the Discord, please. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good idea, Patrick. If anybody does has seen business and data science oriented blogs, please let us know. I might focus my own website more towards that. Who knows? I'll have to think about that. Keeping up with a blog is not always easy, especially if you're talking about wanting to do like in-depth business articles on it. That can be a challenge. But who knows? Maybe I might take that on. I mean, I think I'm well positioned to do that. I just need to find the time to be able to do that. Jutty says, "Can you please pin the name of the book and the site on this live, sir?" Patrick, are you able to pin, or Patrick or Joseph, are you able to pin things via YouTube? I don't know if moderators can do that or not. I might have to pop in and do it myself. Let me take the time to do that. Give me just a second here, guys. I know I have my chat. So Patrick has the Discord here. Okay, so I'm gonna pin Patrick's message to the top so that all of you have the link to the Discord. So click on that link there. It'll take you straight to the Discord. Yeah, Patrick, I see that. I pinned it myself. And then on Instagram, I don't know if I can pin it. Does Instagram even have a pin function? Give me just a second, guys. Looking at my Instagram. Patrick, did anybody post it to the Instagram? Actually, I don't think anybody posted. That's okay. I can do that right now myself. I'm gonna try to pin that. Give me just a second, guys. Okay. So it looks like if you're either on Instagram or on YouTube, you should be able to see that as a pinned comment. So from now on, I'm gonna try to do a pinned comment at the start of every stream. It's a good idea. So thanks for that idea, Jothy. But yeah, you should now see it on both Instagram and on YouTube. Okay. Ajay says, I'm a data scientist, but stuck on new data science project in our company. If you can suggest new use cases. Well, I really hesitate to help people with both homework problems and with company problems. For company problems, that's the type of consulting that I do, right? I mean, this would be like a common engagement that I would do with a company. So if you'd like to maybe post more about it in the community can help you, or if you want to post on a Discord, maybe, we can see if there's some suggestions there, but I really hesitate to, I generally speaking, guys, I don't help with homework problems, because if you're serious about data science, then, you should be doing it on your own, and I don't want to contribute to somebody who's weakening their own knowledge, right? It's just not a good practice to do that, so I don't do that. And I do have people reach out to me with business problems, and that's the type of consulting that I do on a day-to-day basis. And quite frankly, that consulting is what allows me to continue doing, the streaming and the teaching for basically no charge, right? The only thing other than that is my book, right? I offer my book for purchase. So that's why I don't really tend to offer help on business problems or on homework problems. I might share with you stories I hear about business problems, and maybe that will help you in some way. But that's kind of where I draw the line in terms of how I manage my time and all that. Jonah Castillo. Jonah, welcome. Where are you from, Jonah? I don't think you introduced yourself. I'm 19 years old. How can I start in the world of data? It depends. What are your interests? What part of data interests you? Right? Like, do you want to be more on the data engineering side, on the visualization side, on the modeling side? Those are all kind of different interests, right? So what interests you the most? Like, why did you even start looking at data? Or what part of data gets you most interested? It's good that you're starting at a young age. It's good that, you want to explore now and maybe narrowed it down to data. But you should be open, right? Maybe data is for you, maybe it's not, but it's good that you're exploring it. So give us some more details. Like what got you started, okay? Huz says, okay, bye, dinner time. Well, thanks for joining, Huz. Hope you have a good dinner. Leonardo says, why just join if I can make an entrance? Okay, Leo. Okay, so there might be a race to who's number 100 in Discord, okay? But Leo looks like he's lining up for that race. Okay, so I added the pins for the Discord. So Yassine says, if you can please clear my idea about how much math is required. I know that too much is not necessary, but to what level do I need to understand the intuition between the algorithms that I use? Yeah. Yassine adds, pardon me if the question is not clear. I just want to make sure that the fact that too much math is not good is not really how deep the understanding of algorithm intuition is. Okay. So Yassine is asking a really good question. So for those of you that are joining us, for the first time, you will find in my content that I am not someone who advocates that you need to have this really, really deep level of math and you got to take your own formulas and write them into code and you have to know the exact inner workings of every single formula used. That is not what I advocate for. And I say that based on my years of experience of working in the field. I give real world view into this. And quite frankly, some of the people who are out there with the math and all that, they're using it for content, right? Because they don't have real world experience, so they have to rely on the math and all the code to create their content because otherwise they'd run out of content, right? And quite frankly, I think it's also part of gatekeeping, They make data science sound hard and in turn, people feel intimidated by it. Because I get a lot of private messages from all of you that say, hey, I'm intimidated by the math. I don't want to do data science because of the math or whatnot. So it almost becomes like this scare tactic and this gatekeeping tactic because, hey, you need my $50 course or boot camp to help you with the math because you need a lot of math and data. That's not me. So Yassine is asking, well, how much math then do you need? Right? So it's not always an easy question to answer. But what I like people to know the concepts of what we're doing and more about where the math can fail, right? And also where the math kind of takes up your time. So for example, Yassine, one of the things that I like a lot of my data scientists to understand, there's two things that come to mind. First is probabilities, right? It helps to have a healthy understanding of probabilities because I want you to understand that algorithms give you an answer that's based in probabilities. Algorithms never give you a definitive answer. They give you the most likely answer, right? And that's one of the basic tenets that I present in my book, about kind of like these main rules of data science. And that's one of them. Never forget that they only give you the most probable answer. So I want somebody on my team to have a pretty good understanding and quite frankly, a little bit of a fear of probabilities. Because I want you to understand that 90% still means that you're going to fail 10% of the time. And if you're using a high frequency algorithm that's used a couple thousand times a day, well, how many failures are you going to have a day, right? I want you to know the probabilities because I want you to understand the real world impacts of that, right? So I know that with probabilities, you can go down a real deep rabbit hole on that. So I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating more about the understanding of what probabilities mean to algorithms and then what those probability numbers mean to you in the real world. 90% sounds great until you realize that you run that algorithm 10,000 times a day, right? So, and also, as we've talked about in some of the Sunday classes, what is that 90% being applied to? Is it being applied to loan decisions or how a fully self-driving car drives or brakes or speeds up, right? Kind of two separate use cases, right? One is okay, one's really scary. So that's the type of math I want you to know for the probability side. The second one that comes to mind is, okay, you know what? This is a good question for the chat. Okay, guys, get your fingers ready. We're going to have some participation from the chat, okay? I want you guys to participate, and I want you to think about what I just said about math and all that, right? So I'm your business stakeholder, and I come to you, and I say, Yassine, why is it that when you tell me that you're training that neural network, you tell me that it takes 4 days? What the hell is your team doing for 4 days? Why is that neural network training taking 4 days? I want you to explain that to me, Yassine. You're spending a lot of money on these AWS bills, on these cloud bills. Why is your training taking 4 days? All right, so what do you guys reply? Let me know in the chat. Put your answer in the chat. Give you guys a minute here, think about it. Leo, you're making a good point there. I'm going to come back to your question after we get through this. But right now, the question for the chat is, how would you reply to a stakeholder that's complaining to you about why neural networks take so long to train? Why are you running up my AWS bill? What are you replying to that stakeholder? I'm seeing a few people still joining in on Instagram. Feel free to introduce yourself. Or the question in front of the group right now is, how would you reply to a stakeholder that's asking you why neural networks take so long to train? So far, nobody wants to step up with an answer. Okay, this might be a little telling. This might be a little telling. We'll see. Okay, Yassine, thank you for stepping up. Yassine's being brave, giving us the first answer. Well, the fact that the model is taking so much time is to make sure it's getting more stronger, accurate, and much more important and more reliable. Okay, Yassine, I like the way you kept that, very high level. That's great. But remember, I'm asking this in the context of your math question, right? So put a little math, put a little touch of math on the answer that you just gave. You're really close, okay? Unknown Crusader, okay. Unknown Crusader, coming in strong. I don't think you've introduced yourself, but Unknown Crusader's coming in strong with a great answer. We're doing permutations and combinations for finding the best model for the request. Okay, okay. We're getting closer. Leo says, I'd show you why we're being careful on training and showing how close we are from the project. Okay, Leo, you're on the right track, but put a little math on it. Put a little math on it. Ah, Manoj is coming in good. Computing iterations of probability. Okay. Yep. Manoj, you're getting closer. If we were to combine all the answers in the chat right now, we'd get it. Adding math isn't that bad. Just a touch. Give me just a little shading of math in your answer. Right? Or maybe you guys are starting to understand where I'm going with this. Because I told you, there's two types of math I want my people to know, right? If you're coming to work for me, I want you to know these two things, right? Rohan says, more epochs help it get more accuracy. Yeah, but why? Think about just one epoch. Like what's happening, right, in a neural network? Yassine says it's so the model can take time to learn from its mistakes and makes adjustments to become sharper and sharper. Yep. I love the business talk that you're giving, Yassine, but remember, I'm giving you this example in terms of a neural network, or excuse me, in terms of your math question, right? And I told you that there's two types of math that I want my people to know, right? So all of you guys are dancing around the answer, right? Give another 30 seconds and I'll give you guys the answer. And if you guys, if you guys are shy, or you can just say, hey, I agree with Manoj, I agree with Yassine, or I agree with Leo, whatever you guys want, right? You don't have to give an answer. Nobody's going to call on you, but you can just agree with an answer that's up there. Oh my, somebody is saying we reached 100 on Discord. Is that correct? Oh my gosh, we reached 100 on Discord, guys. We did it. We reached 100. Congrats, everybody. Maybe the pinning of the link helped, right? Maybe we should do that more often. So props to whoever's idea that was. Somebody suggested that. But yeah, congratulations, guys. We are now at 100. And we were also running a contest for when we would reach 100. I'll have to see the entries, see if we have a winner for that. Okay, Lakshmi adds, because of backwards and forwards propagation, I guess. Yeah, Lakshmi, but what's happening during that propagation? Remember, guys, I'm asking this in terms of math, right? Remember, it improves our model and brings more business. Yeah, Rohan, but I'm asking this in terms of math, right? Leo says, I love how I feel like the dumbest person in the room. I love you. Oh man, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, but I'm just showing you guys, like, the real world side. I mean, this is what I want my people to know, right? And I've had some great data scientists work for me over the years. Moises says, accurate representations of probabilities requires a greater amount of samples, so 4 days worth of iteration will be providing a big pool of data. Yeah, okay. Lakshmi, my new best friend Lakshmi. Lakshmi has basically hit the answer, right? Intensive mathematical operations. That's it. That's all you need to know about neural networks and math, at least on a high level, right? The answer to why is your neural network taking so long is because neural networks do a lot of multiplication and a lot of multiplication across the nodes. The bigger the neural network, the longer it takes, right? That's it. That's the answer, right? And that's the depth of math that I would need you to know for neural networks. I mean, I know it sounds super simple, but that's really it. Everything else behind that is handled by libraries, right? Everything else behind that, I'm more interested if you know a neural networks package backwards and forwards. Do you know how to do a neural network in Keras and handle all those parameters and the tuning? Do you know how to use PyTorch? If you do, you're fired, because PyTorch is for people that come from broken homes. But that's the type of items that I want you to know, right? I just want you to know that when I'm talking about a neural network, there's a lot of math, a lot of calculations happening at each layer. And then somebody else mentioned permutations, which is also along the right line, right? More layers, the more calculating permutations you have, right? So the more layers, the more processing time, the potentially slower your neural network is, right? But also potentially more accurate. So those are the types of things that I want you to know when it comes to math in data science. Everything else is handled by libraries, right? Even something like choosing your activation functions. Choosing your activation functions, in some cases, are going to be prescribed based on the problem. But in other cases, that can also become like a quasi-tuning parameter for you to use, right? You may not know which activation function is going to work best for your problem, so you might experiment with different activation functions, and some activation functions have parameters within themselves that you can tune, right? So these are the types of different things that I want you to know on a math level. But guess what? I just taught you everything. You don't need to take a math intensive boot camp or some of the other stuff that people are trying to sell you on, or writing your own code. I mean, writing your own code for math is highly risky, right? And I've said that before in some of my content. Super, super risky to do that. Anybody who's advocating to do that hasn't done it in real life. because if you get that wrong, you'll be fired, right? I mean, that's a very serious thing to take on and do code for yourself, right? So that level of understanding of, well, there's a lot of computations happening, is what I want you to know. Because in turn, that's also going to help you in your design, in your hardware requests of me, right? How much hardware are you going to need for this, right? How you can also make projections on how fast the algorithm is going to work at runtime, at prediction time, right? Because training time is one thing, prediction time is another, right? So this is the type of math that I want you to have an understanding of. Every once in a while, maybe like twice in my career, I've come across people who absolutely insist that they need a custom activation function for their neural network nodes. I have yet to come across, in either one of those scenarios, and in other times people have proposed it, I have yet to come across somebody saying that, somebody making a legitimate case for why they have to use it, right? They think they need to use it, but they really don't, right? At some point, it's just, there's plenty of activation functions out there, right? So the cases where you will need a fully custom function are very, very low. Other than that, I have yet to see somebody who really gives me a legitimate need for their own brand new, never been seen before, not in a library type of code. It just doesn't happen. So I'd much rather have you focus on learning the libraries while understanding the fundamentals of what it is that you're doing. So I hope that makes sense. If that raises more questions, put them in the chat. I'm happy to talk about this. I think it's a very important topic. But that's the level that I want you guys to know. And I don't think that's an intimidating level. Let me know if you're still intimidated by that. I think it's pretty straightforward for most people. Patrick says, oh, Patrick, it looks like Lakshmi just beat you to the answer because you're posting a good answer too. Neural networks make billions of calculations to compute the best model. We need to do that for all of our data multipliers. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Patrick. So that's the level of understanding that I want you guys to have, right? Neural networks are intensive because of the calculations they offer, right? Each layer, each node is its own calculation, which quickly becomes thousands and thousands of calculations. Hundreds of thousands of calculations, right? My knowledge says it's taking time to calculate the probability density function. Yeah. Kunal says, Kunal, let us know where you're from. Kunal, I don't think you introduced yourself. Model has many parts to adjust and is learning from a lot of data. Yeah. Same thing, just put a little math on it, but, because to understand how the, why I asked this in terms of Yassine's previous question. But yeah, I mean, that's the type of math that I want you to understand. I want you to have the understanding of how the math is used, not necessarily the in-depth of how to use it. Landry, looks like you switched over to YouTube. Welcome to the YouTube side. Neural network training is an optimization problem. The goal is to minimize a loss function by adjusting the network parameters. Yeah, that's good. What I like about your answer, Landry, is that you're doing a lot of math under the hood when you're changing those parameters, right? But you yourself don't necessarily need to understand that. It's more about understanding what those parameters do and how to execute proper experiments against those parameters. Because you don't always know what the parameter value is, right? We got more into that this past Sunday when we were looking at the lasso functions and this new lambda parameter that could be optimized, right? But yeah, you're on the right track there. Jati says, we need to enhance the accuracy of the neural network as any prediction probability of 9% is insufficient for reliability requirements. Ooh. You had me at enhance and you lost me at 90%, Jati. 90% is, I'm just throwing out there as an example, but the requirements can vary deeply based on the use case, right? So don't get married to any single accuracy level. In some cases, 65% might be okay. Right? You just can't say any value, right? So be careful with that. But you're on the right track overall. Unknown Crusader says, Hi, hello, sir. I'm Satya. I'm a data enthusiast from Delhi, India. Saw one of your reels on Insta, then followed your work. Now I'm here. Accept my joining request. Yeah, I appreciate that you're here, Unknown Crusader. If you're already typing in the chat, that means you're already subscribed. So I appreciate you attending. Feel free to also join on our Discord. Our Discord is a growing community. We just hit 100. Actually, we're at 101 now. So maybe Leo's number 101. You missed out, Leo. But yeah, so we have a growing community on Discord. You're welcome to join there too. We'll gladly accept you there too. Okay. Yassine says, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your guidance. Well, thank you, Yassine. I appreciate you saying that. So let me know if that helped you, right? Because I want you guys to have that mind shift, right? Because I know that there's all that stuff out there on YouTube and on Instagram. Oh no, you got to buy this math boot camp. Data science is hard. It's really not hard. You just have to have an understanding of what's happening. The hard part is in now developing those experiments, right? I remember that Sunday, Lakshmi asked a great question about, where do we go from here? Like, what are the next steps of the modeling? And that is where the work of a data scientist is, right? The work of a data scientist is to be creative with your application of the models, with the way you talk to the business, with the way you design your experiments, with the code that you write to create those experiments, right? The job of a data scientist is not to sit there and look at math books all day. The job is to say, okay, here's where we're at with this model. What else can I do to improve it? What are the other parameters I can tune? Let me double check my code, make sure my testing harness is operating as it should. What value should I use for this range? That is more the work of a data scientist. And that's why I want you to have a base level of math, but much more on the creativity and the application of data science. Okay? Leo says, so it's like focusing on the concept and the fundamentals about how and what your building works. Yeah, that's exactly right, Leo. I like the way you put that. That is exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I want you to have an understanding and again, to a certain amount of fear of probabilities. But otherwise, I have been managing teams for a long time, and I have never once asked anybody to write native math code. I have never once had a meeting with it, like a team meeting, like even among ourselves as data scientists, where we're sitting there talking math formulas. That's just not the real world of data science, period. Leo is asking if Yassine is on Kaggle. Yeah, I guess a couple of you might be on. Is it Kaggle or Kaggle? I just said Kaggle. I just said Kaggle, but I usually pronounce Kaggle. I don't know why I mispronounced it. Yeah, I guess a few of you might be on there. Yeah. Abdos says no, everything is going good. Sorry, but I don't know what that's in reference to. Let me know. Maybe I missed something. Kunal is from Chicago, USA. Okay, welcome, Kunal. Good to see you. Tamarat, my friend, I love the honesty. I love this honesty. A neural network algorithm is still a mind-boggling concept for me, though I used it for my senior seminar paper. Okay. Yeah, Tamara, I love the honesty, and I get it. Neural networks can be intimidating. So I'll tell you what, guys. After I finish my series on this book, I'm thinking of starting another series. But if you guys want to get ahead of me, sorry about that. If you guys want to get ahead of me, go to Amazon. You can find it in my Instagram or on my Amazon shop. There is a book out there called Make Your Own Neural Network, and the author is Tariq Rashid. It's not a cheap book, but you can buy it on Kindle. The Kindle version is a little cheaper, but that book is worth its weight in gold. I love that book, and it really helped me understand neural networks. When I finished that book, I was like, okay, I'm on my way to using neural networks. So I highly recommend that book. He basically shows you how to do neural networks without any sort of frameworks. He shows you how to do it like in a code and math type of way. So what I recommend to people is you go through that entire book, do the entire book, do all the exercises, do all the code. Like run it on your machine, make it run for yourself. Okay? And then start all over and do the whole book, but this time do it with a framework like Keras. Right? Keras, for those of you who don't know, Keras is a framework for creating neural networks. And for full disclosure, I am a moderator on their mailing list, and I've also contributed to their open source. So that's why I like Keras. I think Keras is my framework of choice. So do that. Go through his entire book, do all his code examples, and then start all over, do all the code examples with Keras. Or PyTorch if you're a naturally unhappy person and depressed. If you do that, you should have a pretty good foundation for building on neural networks. Like just the way he explains it, the way he starts off, I really enjoyed it. He's a really good writer. I really wish I could meet the guy because I think he's a really great author. But Tariq Rashid, Build Your Own Neural Network is a very good book, and if you're confused, it'll help you get started. I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I would be surprised if anybody can get through that book and not understand neural networks. It's a very, very good book. So I will do a series on that book once we are finished with this one, so you're welcome to wait for that. But, if you want to get ahead of me, or you really want to study for the summer or for your school or whatever, Tariq Rashid, I guarantee you that book will not let you down. So Kunal says, I'm looking to enhance my understanding of business fundamentals and decision-making. Decision-making process is crucial for data science. Could you suggest some effective ways to achieve this? Yeah, Kunal, that's a great question. And, we had a similar question earlier by Patrick asking about blogs that talk about this. And I wish I could recommend a source. What I want to do is I want to put together some business books, like a reading list of business books that have helped me in the past. So maybe I will do that. But I don't have a singular source that I can point somebody to. So let me think about that. And who knows, maybe that's an opportunity for me to take that up, to do it via my website, because I really don't do a lot on my website. This might be an opportunity for that. But let me come back to you, Kunal. You're asking a good question, right? You're in the right company if you're asking these types of questions, right? Because if you're at this level with data science, then you're on the right track, okay? Leo says, absolutely, there's no big secret. Let me join on Discord later and we can talk more about it. The good thing is we can work as a team. Yeah. So Leo, it looks like he's proposing working on Kaggle problems as a team, which I think would be fantastic. I think you guys should totally do that. Working within a team of data scientists is kind of a whole different dynamic. In fact, that's one of the chapters in my book. If you want to pick up my book, First Year in Data Science, I talk about team dynamics because it's not always easy to adjust working with a data science team. Most academic work is solo, right? When you're doing your academic work and you're kind of building your skills up, right? So yeah, if you guys want to start practicing and doing coding on Kaggle together, then the Discord is a great way to kick that off. And if you guys need a separate channel for that or whatnot, let me know. I'm kind of hesitant to add more channels. Sometimes you join these Discords and there's like 50 channels, and it's kind of confusing. But if you guys want to do that, like a competition specific channel, I could be talked into that. So yeah, Leo, if you or Yassine or anybody else wants to head up that effort, I think it's a good idea. Amin says matrix multiplication to get weights of the network may take time. We train a big model. Yeah, Amina, and that's all I want you to know, right? I don't need you to know how to carry out those calculations. I just need you to know that that's what's happening, right? If you know that, you know more than enough to work with neural networks. Okay? Unknown Crusader joined. I'm the 100th one there. Did it tell you were number 100 though? I'll have to look in the logs, right? Because the logs will have to tell me. Maybe you don't want to share your username, but send me your username on Discord, and I'll have to look it up in the logs to see who was actually number 100. We're actually up to 103 now. So people are joining. This is great, guys. Yes, Jati, thank you so much. Sir, don't forget what you wanted to tell us about a master's degree in data science. Yes, Jati. Thank you so much for that. So Jati, I think this is good because this ties back to everything we've been talking about the people who overly focus on math and this and that, right? So as you guys know, I had dinner on Monday night with my friend who's visiting from out of town. He is a vice president. He is the head of innovation, which is a common title, by the way, for top data scientists, head of innovation. Head of innovation for a very, very large financial firm here in the US, as large as you can get. I'm not going to share the name, but all of you would recognize the name. We have a lot of friends in common. So he was coming to town. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner, which obviously I gladly accepted. And he told me something. He said that he has been disappointed with the master's graduates of data science programs that he gets. He has been disappointed because they don't know how to apply data science. They know nothing about the applications of data science and how to actually use it. So in other words, they are people who have been overly focused on the math and the theoretics without realizing that data science is an applied science. That's it. And data science is not a theoretical science. It is an applied science, right? This isn't astrophysics, right? Like astrophysics, you can study it and you have to write about things and study things that you can never prove, right? You can never prove most of the astrophysics theories out there. Like in an applied way, I mean, right? That's not data science, right? Don't confuse that. Data science is an applied science. You can prove out your work, but you can't do that unless you have business experience. So further to that, he told me that he feels that most of the masters and data science graduates that he gets, and naturally those people are applying for principal data scientist, lead data scientist roles, even senior data scientist. And hey, why not? I got a degree right here that says I'm a data scientist. I got a master's in it, right? But he feels that he needs to start those people at a data analyst level. Think about that. A master's in data science. You just spent, whatever, $100,000 and 2 to 3 years getting that degree. And the chief data scientists are going to put you as a data analyst. That's terrible, right? That speaks a lot to the curriculums that are out there and the way people are studying data science. And I tend to agree with him because I know that I've worked with some people who have advanced degrees like math PhDs or things like that are really no good on the practical side of data science. I've interviewed people that have those degrees that can't answer the basics. They can't answer the basics of, well, why does an algorithm do that? Don't tell me the how in the math and the formula. Tell me the why. Tell me the when you would use that algorithm, or when would that algorithm fail and what do you do in that scenario? That type of knowledge is 100 times more valuable than, well, I know the math. Well, look at this code I wrote that simulates the math for this. That's not great. That's not what you're going to be ultimately paid to do. That's not ultimately what you're going to be applying data science for, right? So these are the reasons why I stress to you guys, work on your craft, do your own studies, build that portfolio of legitimate studies that you did on your own. Because if you can do that successfully, you will zoom to the top over these masters in data science people. They're going to hire those guys as data analysts, and they're going to hire you as a data scientist because you've proven that you've shown that you've done the work, right? That's why those practical applications are so important. Because if you do that, it's like a rocket ship that'll take you to the top over the masters in data science or the code robots and the math robots that I always refer to. Now think about that. A top data scientist at a company that I guarantee all of you would love to work for. He's starting his masters in data science as analysts because they just don't know any better, right? So you can there are ways for you to shine in those interview processes in the job once you actually get it, where you can actually say, hey, not only do I understand the concept of neural networks, here's 2 projects where I found raw data and I worked on it myself. I created my own pipelines. I had my own theories on what could happen. I asked my own questions of the data. Here's what the neural network told me, and here's what I'm interpreting it to mean for business impact. That is super powerful. I guarantee you would catch the attention of someone like my friend or someone like me when I'm doing the hiring process also, right? So I wanted to share that with you guys because I was not surprised that he told me that, because I know the quality of the graduates that are out there. But it's nice to hear from him, because that way I'm getting some of that feedback also. Because I don't want to give you guys just my bias. I know that there are other hiring managers out there that are talking just like me, that share the same sentiment, right? So keep that in mind, guys. You know, the practical side of data science is critical. And if you embrace it, you will shine. I guarantee you will shine over the majority of people out there that are doing the theoretical side of data science. I guarantee you that. If you follow that for the next couple of years, I defy you to come back and tell me that it didn't work, because it's going to work. It's going to work that practical applications will always win over the theoretical side in data science. Especially right now, where, you know, all the hiring, the majority of the hiring is being done in corporations, right? I mean, that's just the way the landscape is right now. But I promise you guys, this will work, and I'm hearing it from the other hiring managers that I know. All right, so keep that in mind. So I hope that helps, Jothy. Davidson, what's going on here, Coach? I prefer sir instead of coach, but let us know where you're from, Davidson. Leo said, it'd be nice working on some projects as a team with some people from here. Yeah, I agree, Leo. Do it. I think it'd be cool too. You know, if you guys get stuck, let me know, and maybe I can, you know, provide some bumper lanes for you guys. But yeah, if you guys want to work on Kaggle projects together, go for it. Neil Patrick says, what exactly does data scientists do? How is it different from data analysts? So Neil, first of all, feel free to introduce yourself. We always like to hear where people are from, right? What exactly data scientists do? How is it different from data analysts? So what I like to tell people is data analysts and data scientists, the difference is modeling, right? A data analyst would typically not be ready to do the modeling that a data scientist does, right? So that's the biggest difference. Data analysts would typically be working more on the analytics side and advanced analytics side, which is great, right? Not poo-pooing that. There's a lot of value in analytics, but a data scientist can typically go and do, in addition to that, do some modeling. Leo says, what? Keras is Dennis's baby? I know I give PyTorch a hard time on this, but you know, I do it out of fun. If you want to use PyTorch, go ahead. But I tell people about Keras so that people don't think that I'm being biased, right? A good scientist discloses all of his potential conflicts, right? So that's just me doing that. But I like Keras. To me, Keras, the code, the structure of the code just makes more sense. Like I've done that, you know, where I'll do something in PyTorch and do something in Keras, same neural network. The code in Keras just seems more readable, you know? Like the PyTorch code to me just is kind of looks funny. Like the way they arrange the layers just doesn't look right to me, right? So I prefer Keras because of that. You know, and like I said, I'm a moderator for their list, and I've contributed open source to them, but it's just my preference. If you guys want to use PyTorch because you have nothing better to do and are lonely and, you know, have no friends, you can use PyTorch, but you know, Keras is better. Just saying. Leo says, yeah, but building things in the real world is better together. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, Leo, so if you want to lead up that effort, Leo, feel free to join. You can be number 105 at this point. But yeah, you know, if you guys want to do that, let me know if you need a separate channel or how I can support you guys. But go ahead and put it up in Discord. Hey, I found this project that maybe we can all, you know, do on Kaggle together. Go for it. Landry's asking an excellent question. For the individuals with technical skills but the lack of business acumen, could a master's in management with a data science track help? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a program like that, Landry? Or are you proposing that as like a theoretical? If there's a program like that, please send me the link. I'd be curious to read about it. But yeah, absolutely, that would help bridge the gap. Sure. That sounds like a great program. Send me a link if that's a thing, Landry. Or I don't know if you're just making that up or not. Maniri says, what's your take on going for a master's in data science or taking up internships without wasting 2 years? Well, look, I don't want to discourage you from doing a master's. I'm just letting you know what the landscape is now for what I'm hearing from other managers and what I've seen as a hiring manager also, right? So in either one of your situations that you're proposing, you're still going to need your own projects, your own portfolio, right? Because look, like I've said before, guys, there is no license to be a data scientist. And nobody's going to come across, come by you and, grant you the ability to be a data scientist. You can do it. You can do it with your work. So no matter what you're studying or what phase you are in your study, even if it's your first semester of a master's program, there's nothing stopping you from going out, finding your own data, coming up with your own hypothesis, designing your own experiments, and doing it. Right? Like, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So no matter what you choose here, you're going to still do it. Even in an internship, you're going to want to, study other fields or other interesting things you come across. Maybe your internship is in manufacturing and you have no interest in that long term, but it's just the internship you could get. So you still want to study other industries, right? Data science and other industries, I mean. So neither choice that you're posing there is inherently bad. You're still going to have to do work on your own, right? So keep that in mind, okay? Maniri says, oh wait, is that a... Oh, I'm sorry, I highlighted the wrong question, but that was Maniri's question that I was answering previously. Unknown Crusader says, thanks for clearing the situation about Masters in the ES, help me for not wasting my years. Yeah, well, I hope it helps, and really the takeaway there is do your own personal projects, have your own research. Practice, keep doing it, right? As I've said before, I must have done 50 EDAs on my own before I ever once took a data scientist interview, right? You have to have the time to put in the hours to work on your practice, work on your craft, okay? Hi, I'm Addy from Boston. I have been a data analyst. I have background in data science. I'm currently working on a project in Gen AI to convert natural language to visualization. Need resources. Is that a school project or a business project? Let me know, Addy. But I think there's already some tools out there that are doing that, aren't they? Natural language to visualizations. Like, what exactly are you looking for there? But there's already tools that will do natural languages to images and natural languages to presentations. So I'm sure there's something out there already that can help you. Landry says, here is the link. Okay, I'm not seeing it here, Landry, but maybe you can put it in the Discord. Could you please do that? For some reason, the link isn't coming up here. Jocelyn, welcome. I don't think I've seen you here before. Let us know where you're from if you'd like. Jocelyn says, I recently joined a boot camp for data science. Any guide on machine, at least one with easy to understand steps. Well, shouldn't the boot camp be giving you that? I really don't want to sound anti-boot camp, but, just be careful with who you give your money to, right? There's a lot of people out there who are going to, who are basically just in it for the money, right? They have no actual experience. They just put a product together. A lot of these people steal content off of, what's that site? The one with all the lessons? Oh my gosh, why is that skipping me? My gosh, I'm getting old. My memory's going. What's that site with all the courses that you pay for? You can pay by the course, right? A lot of people just steal content from that. A lot of those courses get pirated, right? So be careful about who you give your money to. If you want to learn more about machine learning and kind of take a professional approach to it, The book that I advocate for is this one here, Introduction to Statistical Learning. No, Patrick, it's not Coursera, the other one. Why can I not remember this? But anyways, Jocelyn, this is the book that I advocate for. The PDF is completely free. It's free directly from the author, so I don't think you're violating any copyrights by doing that. Statlearning.com is where you can get the PDF. If you want to join us on Sundays, we are going through the book. In many ways, the Sunday class is kind of like my own boot camp. The only difference is I don't charge for it. I give it completely free. Because again, remember, guys, this is me reaching my hand back to help the future generation. Right? I'm gonna help pull you guys up because I'm in the later parts of my career. I'm not gonna say how old I am, although some people tell me that I'm young, that I look young for my age, which is, I live right, So that's the book I recommend. Come join us on Sundays. We're going chapter by chapter, or you can go back to my YouTube, Data Science with Dennis. Look at the previous classes there. At this point, there's got to be like 10 hours of classes up there now, like 10-ish hours. So I don't know how long your boot camp is, but most boot camps aren't even 10 hours. But you can look up there, you can see my teaching style and how we're going through the book, but I think that can also help you. Okay, but that's what I recommend. Just start with the right resources. The Introduction to Statistical Learning is a very, very good book. Anybody who's a professional instantly recognizes it. I think I told this story yesterday, but it's worth repeating. I told my friend that I was doing this at this dinner on Monday night. I told my friend, I said, yeah, by the way, on Sundays, I'm teaching Introduction to Statistical Learning. And that's all I said. And he was like, oh, yeah, the yellow book. And he was like, oh, I know that book. I'm telling you, anybody who's a professional data scientist has gone through this book. This is the Bible. And this is a very good, very professional approach to data science. And by the way, to tie it together to our previous math conversation, if you read chapter 1 in this book, the authors present 4 tenets that they say kind of govern this entire book. And one of those tenets is that they do not require graduate level or deep level mathematics to understand this book, because they also feel that that's not what's needed in the real world of data science. So it's not just me saying this, guys. The authors of this book also said it. You can verify me. It's in chapter 1. Feel free to read it. I think they call it the 4 guidelines or something like that. But that's one of the guidelines. So don't let the math intimidate you. Don't let the, how this book looks academic, right? It's a very serious looking book. Don't let that intimidate you. The authors know that, the authors agree with me that you do not need an in-depth level of math for it. But this is a good book to start for anybody out there who, wants to find their way in professional data science. Okay. Suvendu says, I have observed a lot of job postings nowadays require the skill set around production ML ops. Is it something a must to have in a resume while searching for jobs? Okay, that Unknown Crusader, thank you. It's Udemy that I was thinking about. Udemy is the one I was thinking about. I have never done an Udemy course because 1, pre-recorded content is boring, and 2, too much stuff on there gets pirated. So I don't want anybody stealing my work, so I don't contribute to Udemy. But that's the one I was thinking about. A lot of courses out there are really just stolen content from Udemy, so be careful with that. Okay, sorry, coming back. I have observed a lot of job postings nowadays require the skill set around production ML ops. Is it something I must have a resume while searching for jobs? It depends. It depends on the team. Some teams handle their own ML ops, others don't. But as I always tell people, don't let these hyper-specific requirements prevent you from applying. Data science teams, data science leaders, and I'm speaking from experience here, don't always know exactly the person they're looking for. They might tell you that you need ML ops, but they might hire you for other skills or other creative levels that you bring to the team. So I think that my prediction is that we are going to see more ML ops as data science matures and more people get into data science and more companies use it. Yes, ML ops in turn will kind of grow as a need, but it just depends on the team. But again, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from applying, because maybe ML ops was just something that they heard that they think they might need in the future, but they don't need it today, right? You just never know. So I could see why you would say, hey, MLOps seems to be an increasing thing. And it probably will be over the next couple of years. But don't let it stop you from applying, okay? And again, coming back to my friend from Monday night, head of innovation, really big company, one of the biggest financial firms in the US, and his team is 10 people. Think about that. Big company, big data science team is 10 people, right? So you're going to be joining teams that are small. So don't always let these things kind of throw you off. Like, oh, I can't apply because they want MLOps. They may not know what they want. They may see something special in your resume. They may see something killer in your portfolio, right? So don't let it stop you. Athan says, is it more important to create a portfolio project or to solve as much lead code problems and practice in that way? Yeah, absolutely more towards your portfolio. Okay. Your portfolio will tell me 10 times more than your leak code or your GitHub or even your Kaggle results, right? I'm more interested in the rationale that you took on an end-to-end project than how you are doing on any one individual problem, right? Like, I am more interested in knowing about why you did your own work and why you chose this specific neural network. Like, I want to see you write about that. That to me is much more valuable than a Kaggle competition where the data is handed over to you and in a lot of cases the model is specified to you, right? Or the business problem is specified to you, right? That's kind of like the handicap that I would assign to Kaggle, right? I would much rather read about you saying, I read this article, I took the time to think about it, and my business sense tells me that I want to know these answers, and then this is how I went about finding the answer. I will put 10 times more weight on that than I did kind of sort of okay on this Kaggle competition where everything was prescribed to me, right? So think about that. What basic skills do you need to have before you even begin starting to think about being a data scientist? Okay. And my name is Diwakar Rizal from Nepal, currently running a startup named Sarang Services that tells the stories of cultural heritage and touristic sites with historical roots. Everybody is claiming to be the 100th one. That's funny. I hope that there are some logs that I can check, because you are like the third person to claim you're 100. That's funny. Your project sounds interesting. Sarang Service that tells the stories of cultural heritage and touristic sites with historical roots. That's very interesting. How are you doing that? Is that like a YouTube channel? And you're one of our users from Nepal. We have quite a few people from Nepal joining. What basic skills do you need to have before you even start thinking about being a data scientist? I love the question. Great question. If you are really at like base zero, right? You do not know anything about data science, but you are interested in doing this. You guys know that I'm big on the meta skills, right? So I think it's a massive mistake to, oh, well, I got to jump to Python. I got to learn Python. Oh, I better download VS Code. I better take this math tutorial. Don't do any of that. Understand what is data science. Data science is a process. It's not an algorithm. So research that, right? Research the why of data science. And then also the when of data science. When would you use individual things? What are you doing at those individual steps? Right? Because in proper data science, the coding and the Python and all that doesn't really even come until like the 4th step, maybe in the 5th step, right? Prior to that, you're still trying to understand and define the problem that you're trying to solve. What is it that your model is going to do, right? What is the answer that you're seeking? So if you're literally level 0, today is day 1, the number one thing I think you could work on, and it doesn't cost you anything to do this, is just work on your own curiosity. Curiosity as a data scientist is critical, right? So from now on, whenever you're working on a project, whenever you're reading an article, or whenever somebody tells you a statistic, or whenever a company is making a claim, be curious about it. Well, why is that happening? How can that company make that claim? Where is the data that these people are using in this news article to tell me this? How can I trace that back to the data? What websites are they using? You know, is the data out there on a website somewhere? Or they made this claim based on this data. I'm going to take it in and I'm going to use my own personal critical thinking skills, and I'm going to decide whether that's right or wrong. So just as an example, one of the ways that I did this, and this is going to sound really nerdy, right? But I enjoy doing this. One of my first classes when I made the switch to data science was an applied statistics course. And in applied statistics, you learn a variety of different tools. But one of the things you learn is you learn how you can compare the efficacy of different studies, right? So you can look and you can say, well, this study showed X and this study showed Y on the same topic. Which one is better? So as an illustrative example, you know how like when you buy like a headache medicine at the drugstore, and it says like, you know, 80% more effective than the competition, right? Or you'll see that in a variety of things, right? Like maybe in a detergent or a cleaner you use, it'll say 20% better at clearing germs, right? That's applied statistics. You can put numbers behind that. So as an exercise, I would go back and I would research that company. Like I would go into like the pharmaceutical research of that company and say, well, how can they say 20%? Who were they comparing to? What was the study like? How many people were in that sample, right? Where does that 20% number come from? And I would sit there and I would trace it back. You know, all those little papers you get with your drugs, you know, like the little disclaimers and the studies, the information's in there, right? They have to disclose all that information. So do that, right? Be curious about data. Don't accept numbers at face value anymore. Go back and trace it. Now, I understand you're still level 0, so maybe you're not going to be able to actually work with that data yet, but at least go back and be prepared and do that research. Exercise that curiosity in your mind to say, well, why are they telling me 20%? Why isn't it 30%? Why isn't it 15%? Right? That's, I think, what you can do as far as, you know, as you say, before you even start thinking about being a data scientist. Because in that process, you should also confirm your love for data, because that's kind of what a data scientist will do throughout their day, right? Well, how can I do this better? Why did that result come in that way? What are some of the other changes that I can carry out to help me with that? That's what you do as a data scientist, right? So maybe you'll find out you don't even like that process. You might say, data science is not for me. But if you love that process, then you should definitely continue, right? But that's what I would advise to you. Curiosity. Curiosity is the key word. Okay, be curious about whatever companies or data or news articles or anything else tells you. Okay. Unknown Crusader says, I'm working on portfolio optimization for a Monte Carlo simulation and with new DS Quant library as a side project. Is it good for my beginner's resume? Yeah, sure. Sure. The challenge with stuff like this, though, is that quant research is kind of like, I don't want to say overplayed, but there's a lot of it out there, right? Like if you go to one of the websites and you search for, you know, quant white papers, you're going to get like 100 white papers, right? Like it's a well-studied field, yeah? So I would encourage you to continue, but try to add your own twist to it, right? Try to add your own creativity to it. Like maybe you'll do it to a very unique asset class, or don't do it for crypto. There's like 1 million crypto papers out there. But just try to add your own twist. That's the downside to the quant stuff, that you kind of have to stand out. So I would recommend maybe, you know, looking at another domain or something else that's more creative. But that's the challenge you're going to have around that. Okay. Roasted Bar says through on-site QR storyboards, scan and be one with the story. Okay, so you're referring to the project you're working on earlier. Doesn't ChatGPT essentially do this now? Right? Pretty sure you can do that with ChatGPT, my friend. Might want to consider that. Argad Luhar. Argad, introduce yourself. I don't think you let us know where you're from. Where do you used to work? I worked everywhere and anywhere. I've had a long career. Lots of clients, lots of work, lots of locations. Work all over the US, Canada, Colombia, a couple other places. I've had a long career. 33 Ryan, did you let us know where you're from? Let us know where you're from. I was drawn to data science from chemistry work, and now I have 10 years of experience in data science or chemistry. Great. What is the best route for me to become a general data scientist? Start learning other domains that interest you. I'm hesitating with that answer because domain knowledge can be a funny thing. Domain knowledge can work against you if you get too deep into it. But I would start with some of the business articles, right? What are some of the business articles that indicate problems in the industry? That's where I would start. I would start to look at and say, okay, this is a challenge that the industry is having or individual companies are having. How can I apply what I know into that? What are some of the things that I can do to help with that based on the algorithms and knowledge that I already have, right? I would take that type of an approach because you have the tools, right? Algorithms are just tools. So you have your toolbox. Now it's how do you apply it? How do you apply it differently? What are the problems out there that need help? So that's what I would do. So just, start going to your Yahoo News every morning, picking articles from that industry, and then saying, okay, here's where I think we're at, right? So that's what I would do, okay? And by the way, guys, I just realized that in one of my channels, one of my private channels on Discord, I should be able to find out who was number 100. Yeah, we're going to do that at the end of this stream. I think I can find out because it does keep a by time log of who joins. So we're going to do that. I'm going to bring that up on the screen. That'll be fun. Evie David says, I took a major in machine learning at college, but I was so average back in college. I was planning to go in depth on each algorithm and practice on each algo by building project from Kaggle. Okay. Yeah, that's great. But, balance it with some of your own stuff too, right? Remember, Kaggle is still kind of sanitized, right? The way they lay out the contests. So I want to see you do real world stuff where the answers aren't given to you. Okay? But that sounds like a fine plan. Francis JO2 says, I can put in the hours accordingly. Okay. Francis, I didn't see a previous note from you. I don't know exactly who that was aimed at or what that was aimed at. So let me know, okay? But guys, let me quickly go into Discord. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, Discord, the link for the Discord are pinned. And we're having some great discussion on there. Feel free to join in. But in my general channel, it does keep a log of who joined. So here, joined at 8:25. So these are all people that joined during the stream, right? And 8:25 is about when we had the link posted, okay? So Patrick, Joseph, Rex, help remind me. How many people did we start the stream with? I think we started with 94? I think it was 94. Was it 94 or 92? One of you guys can help me. Rex, Joseph, Patrick, if you guys are still online, remind me how many people we started with. Okay, Patrick says yes, 94. Yeah, that's my recollection too, Patrick. Okay, Joseph says 94. Okay. So Sarvesh was number 95, 96 for Manoj, 97 for Vincent, 98 for Lorez, 99 for Kara, Infinity. Oh, that's nice. I just figured out your emoticons. That's nice. Yeah, classy, dude. So Infinity with the classy emoticons is our 100th member. But yeah. Actually, I just realized we could have counted backwards too, right? Okay, my algorithm was off for that, right? Sorry, guys. Okay, so Roasted Bars, you're Infinity? Roasted Bars is claiming that he's Infinity. We might have you change your name there, dude. But Infinity and Roasted Bars was indeed our number 100th follower on Discord. So congratulations there. So Leo, you missed out, man. But yeah, Infinity is number 100 on our Discord. So congratulations to you. All right, let me go back to the chat because we still have a few questions on there. Roasted Bar says there are places in Nepal that are so mystical and unexplored that the information is only known by chosen older few. If lost, they will die. The other information. Wow, that's awesome, man. That's a great project. Now, I'm having trouble understanding how that's related to data science because it sounds like this is more of a historical documentation project. But I'm happy to be wrong on that, right? So help me understand the data science twist to it. I'm not seeing it. But let me know. Clearly, there could be something I'm missing. It sounds like a great project. Please continue doing that. Argad, let us know where you're from. You know, like what part of India. I have learned some techniques and algorithms. You can say I am like 70% sure what data science is. Nope. But I still don't know what I should build for projects to be job secure or what. Argad, I'm sorry. I love you, buddy, but I don't think you know what data science is. You're displaying a common path, right? People immediately jump to Python, or this YouTube tutorial says I gotta know this code or I gotta download it. No, data science is a process. So I would encourage you to learn more about the methodology of data science because that's where you're lost. Because if you don't know what to build next for projects, that means you're lacking methodology, right? The methodology is what tells you, let's go out and look at some observations. Let's go out and apply the scientific method. Let's go out and come up with questions that make up good hypotheses, right? If I have a hypothesis, I can come up with experiments. If I can come up with experiments, then I'm ready to execute some code. Then and only then, right? You're like on step 5 of this entire methodology. That's why you don't know what to do next, is you don't have the first steps, right? So that's what I would want you to focus on, the methodology of data science. That's a whole chapter in my book, First Year in Data Science. At first, I had it just as a section, but I decided that it's so important and so missing across the board that I wanted to make it its own chapter. So that's what I would tell you, Argad, that you're not ready yet because you don't know the fundamentals. But here's the flip side of this, guys. And this is another reason why I put so much emphasis on methodology. Once you understand the methodology of data science, flying at you, right? Because when you understand the methodology and you have a couple tools in your toolbox, then it becomes, oh, I read this article. Let me do this. Oh, that article sounds weird. Like you'll be able to come up with these ideas so quickly. But you don't have that now because you don't know what data science is, right? You don't know how to come up with your own questions, right? You're going to end up like my friend who takes his master's graduates and end up as data analysts because you're always accustomed to having data so nicely and neatly packaged to you. The professor always tells you what to do, right? The class itself tells you what model to use. That's not the real world. The real world is you got to find stuff on your own. The real world is you show up on your first day, you're a data scientist, the business comes to you and says, okay, we're paying you a lot of money, you got 2 weeks to show us something. And that's it. That's all the guidance they're going to give you. There's no professor there. There's no problem statement there. You have to go get your own data, right? That's why you need that methodology to be able to do that, to be able to know, okay, yeah, here's my plan. Here's what I'm going to do. And you've done it so many times that you know that you can do it in X amount of time. I can do this in 2 weeks, right? Or no, I can't do it in 2 weeks. I don't want to promise you that. Here's what I can do, right? But that's only because you've done it so many times, because you know the methodology, because you've been able to take apart all these projects, right? So our God, that's what I would tell you. Start from the beginning, methodology of data science. Okay, so Patrick Joseph Rex, thank you so much for confirming it was 94. And we have confirmed that roasted bars is number 100. So congratulations on that. Sarvesh, my book, First Year in Data Science, has methodology in it. So you're welcome to look at that. Another book for me was, what's it called? Doing Data Science. Doing Data Science. Kathy O'Neill. It's an O'Reilly book. That was one of the first books that also got me started on on methodology. They propose a methodology, but in many ways it's very close to the software development lifecycle, and that's okay. But read my book, listen to some of the stuff I say, but form your own methodology, right? You can have your own methodology. It's okay to make adjustments. Some parts you don't want to put ahead of others, but you can form your own methodology too. That's going to come with practice, right? So I recommend starting with a baseline example from my book or, Doing Data Science. Start with those, but you can develop your own methodology over time, right? But also, one of the things I write in my book is, when in doubt, always return back to the scientific method. Data science is the consistent application of the scientific method, right? So that you can use that as your guiding light for methodology too, okay? Our God says, I do know it, but due to limited space, I can't tell that to do. I follow you on Insta. Yeah, great. You can also follow on YouTube if you'd like. Maybe the YouTube widescreen gives you a little bit more space. But yeah, it's still important to know methodology. Because our God, I'm going to disagree with your assertion that you know it. Because if you knew it, then the projects would come easy to you. You wouldn't be asking about projects, right? Because once you understand the methodology, you're going to see all these things flying at you. Just like my example with my class of applied statistics. When I learned those things, like I went to it, right? Like all of a sudden, I saw all these numbers like, wow, I can go and verify those claims. I can go and look at what their p-value was, what their sample size was, what their testing methods were, right? So like if you knew those things, you'd be out there doing it already. Like the ideas would come to you. I promise you that. The knee says, how can I get access to your book? It's on Amazon. It's available globally. I have all 3 formats, and I have made the ebook version. I priced it where it should be accessible in most countries. I spoke with people. I DM'd individual people and said, hey, what would this be in your country? They gave me their feedback, and I priced it accordingly. So I'm less than 500 rupees in the Indian market. So if you can find that on Amazon. All 3 formats are up there. And there's also previews, by the way. You can also preview it. You can preview both the written version and the audio version. They do give an audio preview, which I think is pretty neat. Roasted Bar says, I don't want to take the moment to share this because others are practicing it. Basically, I get to hear the stories of mystical places with ancient knowledge that is scientific, yet non-academic. Ah, interesting. Okay. Okay, cool. I'd be interested in knowing your long-term findings over that, right? Because I think there'd be a lot of interest in that. But it sounds like a great project. So, if you want to share more details or maybe get some feedback, whatever you're comfortable sharing, maybe you're not comfortable sharing, feel free to put it on our Discord. The Discord gives you more space and all that. So feel free to do that. Okay, but I'd love to hear more about it. I think a lot of people would like to. I think Nepal is a very interesting country. Would love to visit there someday. Argod says, but isn't methodology in a nutshell is simply why? No, it's more than that. The methodology is about the why and the when. What good are all these tools if you don't know when to use them, right? You got to know when to use these things. Otherwise, you're useless, right? So don't have a flippant or dismissive notion towards methodology, because it's super important. It's what's going to separate you from the okay data scientist to the great data scientist, right? And here's another thing, Argod. And I want all of you to remember this, right? And I talk about this in my book, and you can find this in other books, right? Another reason why methodology is important is because I guarantee you that at some point in your career, maybe even multiple times in your careers, if we're being honest, you're going to write an algorithm that goes wrong. You're going to write an algorithm that gives a bad result. That's going to happen. If you don't think that's going to happen, then you haven't done data science enough. It's going to happen. So the reason why you have methodology is to help you separate the process from the result. You can have a bad result. That's okay as long as you have a good process. But if you don't have a good process and you have a bad result, you're fired. I mean, that's the end of your career and your reputation, right? Because that's careless. That's careless work. So be careful with your line of thinking there, Argon. Do not be flippant about methodology. It will cost you your reputation in the future if you're not careful. Methodology is what we as scientists rely on for any result that may come, good or bad, right? So do not be flippant about methodology. Moises says, which book do you recommend reading first, An Introduction to Statistical Learning or your book? I'm open to purchasing both. So Moises, my book is intended more for people who have some data science training and then are going into the real world, right? So if you're kind of a level 0, I would probably start with Introduction to Statistical Learning is not a bad choice, but don't do it on your own. The reason I chose that book to do in my series is because if it wasn't for my series, I would only recommend you doing that like in an academic environment, right? Like you should, you need to be guided through that book if you're a level 0 data scientist. It's super hard to do on your own. It's possible to do on your own. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a lot easier guided. So either in an academic setting or by coming to my classes on Sundays, or like I said, you can review the previous classes on YouTube. It's completely free. I'm not charging for any of this, right? So you want to be careful with that. That I do want to say that book, just don't do it alone. Okay? But that book is good, and then combine it with doing data science, because the Introduction to Statistical Learning book doesn't really focus a lot on methodology. It does it a little, but doing data science will help you with that. Okay? So keep those in mind. But good question though, Moises. Sven says, what's the name of your book? Yeah, it's right here in the corner. Your first year in data science. You can search for that on Amazon. On Amazon, you can search for your first year in data science, DS with Dennis, or data science with Dennis. All of those come up in the search results. I indexed it that way. Find it on Amazon. You can find it on Apple iTunes. Apple Books also has it. Who else has it? A couple other people have it. I can't remember. But yeah, you can find it as an ebook, audiobook, and as a paperback. And I know that the paperback is a little bit higher in some markets, but I went through a lot of testing phases with it. I'm choosing quality paper with quality printing. It's color graphics inside. So, it's a quality book. I'm trying to put out a quality product that has my name on it. But you can find it on all the sources, okay? All right, guys. Wow. We went almost 2 hours today. Jeez. Thanks so much for joining. I can't believe we went over 2 hours. Really appreciate all of you. Really appreciate all the time that we spent together. I stream every day, 1500 GMT, or start coming on Sundays for the class. We're having a really good time with that. Join our Discord. The link is in the chat there. So thank you for all the time we spent together. Really great chat today. It's not often that we go 2 hours, but really appreciate all of you. So take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.